it's well understood when you're talking about stabilizing prices in the sense that you want prices to be in line with what you see in terms of general inflation. What you had over time, you have a dislocation. If you look, and it's not unique to Canada, by the way.
No inflation relief for Canadians today, with Statistics Canada reporting another rise, driven primarily by higher gas prices. The increase comes despite interest rates sitting at a more than 20-year high and against the backdrop of multiple new government promises to address the cost of living. Let's talk about those with the front bench. Brian Gallant, Lisa Raitt, Tom Mulcair, and Rob Benziar here. Lisa, I'll start with you. The Liberals, ahead of the data today, basically announced, getting rid of the GST on purpose-built rentals and then calling in these grocery store CEOs whom they met with yesterday. Is that smart politics, and do you think ultimately will be strategically successful for them?
It depends on what they're going to get measured against. I mean, I am highly doubtful that they're going to be able to do anything to be able to stabilize, control, whatever they're talking about in terms of prices. The best they can hope is that inflation actually slacks off and there'll be a natural stabilization of prices. Then they can point to it and say it's okay. But lo and behold, the numbers come out and guess what? It's pretty hot right now in inflation. So that's not going to work. I mean, short of wage and price controls, I don't know what federal authority they have in order to control or stabilize the prices. Are they going to tax them? Well, that's just going to get passed through. So this was all a bit of theater today to show that the government really, really cares, which is important. But I don't really know if there's going to be anything coming out of it much, except perhaps a good opposition one day on a campaign trail will say, well, on September 19th, you said this, and it got worse from there.
How important is it for the government, Tom, to be able to deliver on the stuff they're talking about versus talk about it in a way that is empathetic toward what Canadians are going through?
It's crucial, Vassy. That which gets measured gets done. And right now they're looking at a report, for example, from the Parliamentary Budget Officer that says, contrary to Liberals' arguments, their system of carbon tax is not going to be returned to families. They're going to have increases in prices. So look at what's happening. Think of a retired couple on a very low fixed income in Nova Scotia. They're probably heating with oil. That's going to be going up because of the next increase in the carbon tax. Their groceries have already gone up $80 a week, and they're hurting. And these are ridings across the Atlantic Canada that were absolutely sure to go the Liberals' way the next time around. Right now, they're not ahead in any of them. So this is a huge political problem for them. But to Lisa's point, whether it goes up or down, I do think that they're at their nadir right now. I do think that the Liberals are at their low point. They're, on September 15th, they were 15 points behind the Conservatives. And today, bad economic news, inflation back up to 4%. Where those numbers will be in December will be the tale of the tape. So I do have a feeling that the Liberals will start closing the gap. We saw how good they are at politics yesterday when they completely dominated the news cycle. We're going to watch what happens with the Bank of Canada. If there's another rate increase, then I think that it plays right into Pierre Poilievre's hands. So whatever influence the government does have, I have a feeling they're going to do everything they can to make sure that that next decision by the Bank of Canada does not include another rate hike.
Brian, you're in the heart of the area that Tom touched on, Atlantic Canada, where the Liberals have particularly gone from being very popular to way less popular because of the issue of cost of living. To what degree do you see the kind of evolution in their messaging over the last week affecting their fortunes where you are, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's we got to put sort of context here. You're not going to get any sort of traction within 48 hours, within a week of changing your message. But I think very clearly they've gotten the message and they've kind of come out firing on affordability. Now, I truly believe that they get it, and whether that's because of sort of some internal pressure, whether it's because they had the summer to go out and sort of the barbecue circuit, as it's often called, or some combination of that, and just looking at the data, maybe they're just like, okay, we really got to step up. We got to step up our messaging, and we also got to deliver new programming. I'd be of the view, though, if I were giving them some humble advice, is I really do think that they're going to just have to get results. I think this is a case in which, yes, you need to be empathetic. You need to show people that you understand. You always need to do that. And certainly when people are really struggling like they are right now and they're very concerned, but they're going to need results, because even if you kind of deliver a great message that's empathetic and people get that you understand what their plight is, they're still going to say, okay, I have some hope. All right, you're on it. but they're going to want to see results, and they're going to want to see it before the next election. So, look, if the next election's in a year and a half, 2 years, there's still some runway to get some wins, get some things going that will help people. But look, you got to get some results, and this is a starting point to acknowledge and start to prioritize and make some announcements that will hopefully garnish results. But they've got to deliver.
What's so interesting, Rob, and last word to you on this, is that they've actually imposed their own kind of time frame or metric through which we will be able to judge whether they can deliver results. And it's a very condensed time frame. It's by Thanksgiving. They've come out over the past number of days and said, we've given grocers until Thanksgiving to quote unquote stabilize prices. Tonight, it sounds like from Greg Fergus, that means lower them by 3%. I mean, I'm not really clear on it. What do you think about them imposing that deadline on themselves, which seems, like it'll be a challenge to meet, I guess, to put it lightly?
Vassy, you're right. It's a challenge. I mean, Thanksgiving is what, 3 weeks away? I mean, it's or 4 weeks, almost 4 weeks. I mean, it's a lot to ask that I'm going to be able to go in and buy, Stokely's pumpkin pie mix for cheaper in October than I can today as I leave the studio. So I think they've got a huge challenge. But to Tom's point, they have to do something. They have to do something quickly. They are desperate now. They're desperate in the context of if an election were being held a month from now around Thanksgiving. It's not, though. An election could be 2 years away. So I think they do have to show some results. We have learned, if we've learned anything about the Liberal Party of Canada over the last 120 or so years, they are very good at morphing and taking other parties' policies, whether it's conservative policies or New Democratic policies, and claiming them as their own, and then translating that into votes on election day. So I wouldn't count them out just yet, but they are certainly have their challenges. And if there's another rate hike from the Bank of Canada, what's that going to do to the housing crisis that we already have? I mean, it's going to make it even harder for people to afford their homes, and so that's a really tough challenge that they have.
Yeah, it's hard not to keep all our eyes focused on the potential for that hike. I have to leave our discussion there. Thank you very much, all of you, for your time this evening. Brian Gallant, Lisa Raitt, Tom Mulcair, and Rob Benzie.